A tale as old as time, as old as Hugs 86, as old as the Ken combos and up throw up airs of Melee's past. Heroes versus villains is an idea and a trope that has permeated every medium of storytelling and competition that I can think of. And while Batman versus Joker or Thanos versus the Avengers might be a more popular series of examples, sports and esports communities also share in this heroes versus villains storytelling style, intentionally and unintentionally. When I think of heroes, I think of figures that through some degree of their being, how they play, who they are, what they do, that is seen as kind, uplifting, collaborative, and positive. When I think of villains, what comes to mind involves some capacity of being a heel. Someone to playfully root against, someone that challenges or opposes the mentality of the heroes, and someone equally rootable at disrupting the status quo within their communities. Our Smash documentaries from Samox did a great early job at painting big names in our scene as early heroes, villains, and innovators in the spaces where they exist in between, because no one is all villain and all hero, as we are much more complex than a simple title can convey. However, it's incredibly interesting to see how players can uplift and empower the incredible stories that are waiting to be told by embracing different, healthy angles of heroism and villainism within competition. This year, a couple weeks ago, in March 2024, we had Collision 2024. This was a stacked Melee bracket that saw the likes of players like Zane coming out on top, and other upsets like HBox over Cody Schwab. But this video isn't about the singles bracket, surprisingly. It's about the heroes versus villains crew battle that took place on night 1 of the tournament. Why am I choosing to focus on the heroes versus villains crew battle? Because I think it's fascinating to see where heroes and villain titles are aligned between the players that are picked to perform. Now, before we talk about who is on each side and who won, I just want to mention that these crews were self-selected. Players decided their own hero or villain's allegiance. This video will provide a look at how these players fit or don't fit into their respective titles as hero or villain, and I'll also explore my own personal crew battle of heroes versus villains. And finally, I'd like to investigate what you, the viewer, would assemble when considering your perfect heroes versus villains crew battle. Let's begin with a quick description of the crew compositions and how the actual crew battle went. The hero side consisted of legends like Zane, Mango, Triff, Joshman, and Moki, with the villains consisting of Jmook, HBox, Magi, Aklo, and Kadoran. On first glance, both teams seem to be composed of a good variety of characters, ranks, and personalities. The crew battle would begin with Joshman and Magi leading the way. After a close one-stock set, Magi would take the first match, and the heroes would respond with sending in Mango. But not just any Mango, no. A Mango that just arrived off of his flight at the tournament venue to go in right away as Falco himself. Mango wouldn't get out unscathed though, losing a stock but avenging the heroes before HBox would come in for the villains. A rivalry as old as time itself would return, as Puff Falco would go in HBox's favor. Now at this moment, I thought Zane would come in and try to snipe the tough HBox stocks out with the precision we've seen in his past sets. However, the heroes would opt for the Canadian Fox, Moki, to burst the pink, villainous balloon. He would do so with minimal damage. And honestly, this would prove to be more than just a good cleanup, but an opening and indicator for the rest of the set for the heroes. Moki would come out with his Captain Canada shield shining, as he would go on to take all of 4 of Kadoran's stocks on FD, and almost all of Aklo's Fox stocks, leaving to a devastating rampage and spiral for the villains.
Most people will never be able to do. One massive tournament over a very good player.
Yeah. Okay. And there's one. This is
Loki takes the first stock here.
risky. Loki's so confident right now.
Is Curtis gonna take 6?
It'll be 7.
It'll be 7.
Performances I've seen in the modern age.
Great tech chase. Another up throw dead.
Flo
That
denies
does
it.
it.
8 stocks is all.
Finally, Moki's stock would be taken, but Zayn would come in and finish off Aklo's stock, setting up a J-Mook-Zayn rematch that put the crew battle on the line. And although it was stylish and fun, J-Mook would fall to the heroes, leaving Triff relaxing in the back as the heroes win 5 stocks to 0.
Keep this up.
Triff is
Heroes.
sitting on the bench. Open.
Oh,
no, dude. No, dude.
The Jake.
Oh.
And that's the dare. The heroes with 6 stocks left vanquish us villains.
We're in shambles, Billy.
We're shambling right
We
now.
have to change.
How well do each of these players fit in with their hero or villain titles? Let's start with the heroes. Zayn Nagmi is a previous #1 ranked and now #2 player in the world. A Marth within the MDVA region, he's been a champion of both Marth itself and the rise of a new generation of top players set to take over the old guard and begin a new era of Melee. I think Zayn may have developed some early perceptions of villain nature in the dashback and dash dance heavy playstyle he was formerly associated with. However, from back when he made his first big upset on Plup, I think he's absolutely been a hero. Zayn is a hero because of his exciting yet humble presence at the very top of Melee, reforming the game in a way that blended style for the people, hope for matchups that were seen as vastly different than they are now, like Puff versus Marth, and for his connection and passion to create within the community.
Combo Puff like this in this matchup.
Yes.
Like, he combos Puff as if she's a fast faller. It is crazy.
Off stage. What's the punish right here? Zayn,
What a
the trip
feedback.
back to ledge, yeah. Dude, HBox cannot find his footing right now. He cannot
Oh my
find
God.
his footing right now. HBox.
When Zayn streams, he locks in and is always trying to improve by constantly playing his competitors. And in tournament, he's someone who pushes players to their limit and makes every set entertaining. He's gracious in losing, and Melee has been left in a much better spot with his presence. Hero title well deserved. Next up for the heroes is Triff. Triff, the Spanish Peach, identifies himself as a hero, and as a veteran within the scene, this Peach would accomplish the definition of heroism in several different ways. As a European top player for years, they've always been an underdog, heading into the North American tournaments, and the extended pressure of competing internationally must be intense. Yet, despite this, Triff would find himself overcoming massive upsets that were landmarks for their time, such as their wins over Mewtwo King at Genesis and Leffen at DreamHack Rotterdam last year.
One game 5, bumping
Oh
off.
my God!
No way, his first tournament back for Z. Beating Leffen, moving on to win his finals.
302!
Holy sh! It looks so.
But wins alone don't make a hero. Triff's recent push for streaming and content creation has constantly shown us and a revolving and increasing amount of clips of the most stylish Peach play you've ever seen, and Triff openly embraces themselves getting clipped. So when you pair the style, the victory, and the humbleness to show the screenshots of asking top player for games, Triff embodies the presence of a passionate top player. And that for me is a huge key to heroism.
Great whip punish. Oh, no,
A certified
Josh.
hero.
Missing the tech. Triff. Oh no, the nair.
Angle down, yep, perfect. How do you get off the ledge there? The nair is huge, but Triff slides off.
Okay. Oh, with the nair through.
Dash Dance City again, but Triff has no real estate left. Oh! Stitch! What is happening? Down smash
Down
from
smash.
center. Read it again. DI'd it on
my
the down
God.
air, and Triff steals it away.
Let's travel down under and talk about Joshman. If you're a fan of the Yard podcast or have been given a chance to see Joshman commentating or talking on stream, you're probably a fan of him before I've even said anything or that you've seen his gameplay. He is a supremely technical fox who has won over the crowds of players and fans alike with his balance of skill, of humor, and an incredible beard. Joshman also worked incredibly hard to give Melee a shot. He had to leave his home and endure brutal visa struggles just to stay in the US, and played largely in Australia for his career, which, while filled with incredible players like Sock or SA Nick, lacks the very top level play that would enable him to succeed. So Joshman played not only for the people, but with a desire to make something in his time playing games. He brings insight and entertainment to every stream he's on. In his gameplay, whether underdog in his victory over Leffen at LACS, or in his close losses to longtime demons like HBox, Joshman tells the story of a hero who you can relate to, who brings positive emotions to his audience, and who, through sharing the culture of Australia, has opened my eyes to the joy and laughs that are always nearby. Hero status validated. Next up is Moki. If this were a video on Canadian heroes in Melee, this would be an absolute given. Moki has shown the Melee community that Canada can hang in the top 5, and that heroes are heroes because of their ability to never give up. Moki has been transparent with his following about the struggles he's had with family, with vices, and with issues we have no idea about. He's voiced frustrations with players, with the community, and with his own environments, and even with the very stories that are told and perceived about him. Some see him as a complainer, and these Joker-esque origin stories of frustration would seemingly make him a villain. However, while I see the potential villain thinking, I can't ignore how inspiring it is to see Moki thrive as a means to prove all the barriers and doubters wrong. He saw the comments made about online not counting and made his next year in person his strongest yet. He saw his seedings as unrepresentative of him and made sure he placed high enough at majors that he was no longer ignored. And given enough time, no doubt the legacy record of 0-18 versus Zane will finally be overcome as the crowd chants, "I'm moking? I'm doking?" Moki's a hero, and not only for Canada, but for Foxes and Smash everywhere. And finally, as we always do, let's talk about Mango. I think if anyone has a history that could present itself as villainous, it would be younger Mango. As presented in the documentaries to some extent, as well as with the somewhat controversial way he used to handle himself, Mango was often seen as a villain. He had moments of toxicity or BM in singles, he talked a lot of shit. He was seen as a careless drunk degen, and in a lot of ways had some element of villain always attributed to him. But in 2024, we've seen a much larger turnaround to being a hero in ways that underline sentiments of Melee as a whole. Mango carries so much weight in Melee stories. He's a rival to so many top players. He's a pillar for multiple characters, and he's had so many roller coaster results that whether you root for him or against him, you know that he's got fans excited and watching. He's the inspiration for the USA chant for a reason, and he's the biggest Eagles fan in Melee. He's contributed so much back to the Melee scene that his journey to being a hero is undeniable. He's become an underdog as of late, one of the last 5 gods, and no matter how tough it's been, he continues to push for a grind back to the best. He's taken losses in recent months in stride, and it's really awesome to see. He's constantly helped friends with tournament attendance, he still enters brackets, shows up to locals, and has shared his troubles in competition in ways that really relate to those who hear his messages. I know there are people who don't like Mango as a player or personality, but I think for someone who could leave the Melee competition whenever he wanted and be okay, he's a hero for continuing to push himself through bad losses and being called washed to help prove himself as a GOAT and not a buster one last time. He wasn't always a hero, but I think we are in our hero Mango era. Now let's look at the villain side. Let's start with HBox. I think HBox is the best pick for the villains for his perception by many in Melee competition as a villain for his play and character choice with Jigglypuff. As a floaty in the world of Spaceys, HBox stood against the button-mashing, shine-crashing Foxes and Falcos and made a name for himself as #1 for multiple years, creating metas of planking and psychological play that would test patience and bring out a plethora of secondary Foxes for much of the field. When I consider his prominence as a puff against the rest of the players around him, as well as his wrap-up in certain melee conflicts such as mid-set coaching or a refusal to play friendlies, HBox is a competitor that keeps melee interesting, and a great villain for the squad. Also, as of late, I know this doesn't boost the case for villainism, but I've started to root for HBox, as his return to the very top and his beginning to take sets over some of his biggest demons is something that I'm really looking forward to. Next up on the villain squad was Jmook. And though many would say he is a villain for the envy he brings upon others who gaze upon his posture or his great facial hair, Jmook may not really scream villain to many of us. He seems kind, humble, and supportive of all things community and melee. However, when we look at his play, that's where his evil resides. His impeccable reactions and desire to push combos can be cocky, arrogant, confident, and an absolute evil as you watch the opponent unable to play the game for such large moments at a time. Is he a real villain? Maybe not. But consider this: Jmook, Jaywalking, J Arson. Coincidence? Next up, it's Aklo. A member of the Brotherhood, his passive and lethal playstyle already bleeds evil. And this was visible during Bracket at Collision as well, where we saw a grueling 3-1 Link Samus win for Aklo over Wevins that ended with some choice emotions perfect for their roles as villains.
300, 300, do I see 350? Do I see? Oh, give it to me, give it to me.
Do we see 420?
Oh my goodness, 320, 320, 325.
Do we see 350? $350.
Sold to the forward air in the back.
That occurred at that exact moment, right when. Yeah.
Oh
okay.
yeah, this is.
So here
this
we
is
go.
Good.
No fist
no,
bump.
He
which
says
is
no
fine, and
fist
then
bump.
Was that that was the
That
finger?
was a full finger.
That was the full finger.
That was the full finger. I can't blame either player for engaging in that behavior.
I think
Being able to willingly push someone to 300%, to camp, to taunt, embodies elements of melee that people find distasteful or lame or downright evil. But seeing him climb from his humble roots in New York to the top echelon of play, it makes you think that he and his hero of time might be more nefarious than we know. Next up on the villain squad is Magi, and she absolutely belongs here. I think B-Bats says it best: bad bitches are always villains.
Oh! Into too many.
Finally, the last member of the villains is Kadoran. Kadoran actually has an extremely positive outlook on supporting melee. He's helped run many events with FlyQuest, he's a dedicated TO and local supporter, and constantly streamlines his mindset and mentality as he practices. How in the world could this melee angel possibly be a villainous demon? I think Kadoran feels most evil in his playstyle. Seeing him execute his game plan and flowcharts with brutal accuracy, and play for the win in a manner that feels like every Spacey's worst nightmare is daunting. And when you're really rooting for his opponent, it feels heartbreaking knowing what he might do to them. So, maybe you agreed with these ideas, or maybe you didn't. This was an incredible event that made the most of its 1200 entrants to create this amazing theme. If we had access to the whole top 100, it begs the question, what would our dream 5v5 heroes versus villains crew battle be? For me, I think my 5 heroes would be Axe, the kindest guy in Melee who plays Pikachu, a hero in his own right in the Pokemon series, who is even frequently referred to as a mid-tier hero. His entire personality in-game is something that some people root for, and is hero in its own right.
Yeah. If he tips it.
If he tips it.
Oh, he does it again!
No,
He
no,
up
Smash
smash!
was on its way
That was
out.
the
It
up
was
smash!
on its way
Oh,
out.
oh,
No.
oh, no!
Oh,
Axe!
here's the jump.
Axe does it! I
wow.
cannot believe
God.
Axe! The 3-0 comeback into that insane last stock? Axe! I cannot.
Next up for my personal choice of heroes would be Amza, the pilot of the final dinosaur that hasn't gone extinct. Amza has progressed to the top 5 in the world with a character no one else has ever done it with, spending most of his time in Japan and with much less frequent access to the top level North American tournaments and players, it's been incredible to see Amza win, and when he wins and he celebrates, you can't help but get caught up in rooting for his victory and his success.
He did the Amza did it! Amza did it! The first time in history Amza wins a super major, the hardest turn.
Next up for the hero squad, if I got to choose it, would be S2J. Everyone raise your chairs. It doesn't matter who you are. Seeing S2J succeed fills a hole in my Melee heart that nothing else can. The world would be a much better place with more Johnny Stocks around. Unexpectedly, the fourth pick on my team would be Ossify. This Michigan Marth has been referred to as Bossify for his exciting rise in prominence, putting Zayn to the brink and constantly taking sets off of incredible players. He constantly extends strings and combos in such unconventional ways that he can't help but be for the people. Scar would be proud. And finally, my fifth pick for the heroes would be Junebug, the ex-Sheik and current Donkey Kong, who has won over many fans of Melee over the last couple years with an uprising in incredible victories and results with the King of Kong. Seeing him win and push a character further than even his old mains is an act of heroism that I would want for the heroes on their side.
Is it happening? Is it happening? Oh, he misses the forehand! Junebug gets it!
You gotta be kidding me! Junebug shuts it down! He's the leader of the bunch! You know him well!
This is what my hero squad would look like if I had access to the entire top 100. Now, let's look at the villains. I think, for reasons that I talked about before, the first villain in my squad would be Hungrybox. He's too iconic as a fantastic melee heal, and the rivalries that would remain enchanting and exciting would come back to life for this new 5v5. But next up, I would choose Wizrobe. I think there's nothing more debilitating than seeing your favorite player helplessly get tech chased with ruthless persistence, or hit a move that Wizrobe SDIs so well that he ends up on the other side of the stage up 3 stocks. There's something truly evil about that technical prowess, and there's no fire that can beat that type of ice. Next up, and number 69 on the list of the top 100, is Curve. As of late, he's made waves in the Twitter feedback spaces where his commentary on the intellect of Marth players continues to garner him critics and hecklers to help call him out on his complaining. To see him rise to the skill of the occasion, or to lose to Ossify and explode on Twitter, would make for great Melee regardless, and so I think he has a good spot on the villains. After that, I'd have Laud, the Peach. It's almost too much of a flex to be a doctor and a top 15 Melee player. Save some talent for the rest of us. But if that wasn't enough, he also has no problems timing out, outlaming your favorite players. Down smash has already left many of us with irreparable damage and bad memories, and Laud is up there for the most devastating pilots of a character that has some of the most haters in Melee. And finally, the anchor for the villains, Cody Schwab. Many of you may think Cody Schwab is a hero, his rise against all the barriers around him in life to come to be number 1, and I think Cody is incredible, literally and objectively the best as per our rankings. But finding himself in the center of discourse on claw and Z jumping, or as an unstoppable wall to your favorite player's path to victory, unless you're a Morse code fan, he's made some enemies as number 1, and it's time to see if he can defend the throne as the villain he is. So this is what my list of villains would look like in an ideal top 100 5v5 crew battle. So these are my 5v5s. What would your heroes versus villains 5v5 be? Let me know your rosters and your reasoning in the comments below, and I'm really excited to hear. Also, side note, thank you everybody for 1K subscribers. It has made me so happy listening to the feedback and the kind words. So until next time, you are all heroes to me. Thanks for watching.